Hi everybody, it's Sharon from Blessed to Craft Designs, and I'm coming to you today to show you something new that I did just maybe about a week or so ago. Really cute, can be used as a gift for a birthday, Christmas. You can do wedding type things with it. Just really cute cups, and it's really popular right now. I had lots of fun doing this. There was a lot of things that I am learning. I continue to learn. Again, this is my journey that I'm taking you all on. But as you can see, this is one of the Yeti type cups. I think I picked this one up from like the Family Dollar or something like that. As you can see, it's just. But the neat thing about this is this that you see right here is this. It's fabric. It is fabric that I put on here with Mod Podge, and then I covered it with epoxy and excuse me, this is a monogram from off of my Cricut machine that I did the offset with the two colors. So as you can see, not perfect. This is mine. Those are my initials, by the way, so I didn't give this to anybody, and I probably won't. I don't know, maybe just, you know, my kids and stuff, they're always looking for something to carry to school. But as you can see, once it dried, I did notice I had quite a few air bubbles in it, and that's just because I didn't put any heat to it. I just kind of let it dry on its own. But this was a coat underneath, and I believe one coat on top. I thought about doing two coats, but again, this cup is for me, so I'm going to show you how to do it. But instead of this, I wanted to do something different and put it on one of these. You know, these cups, you can find them on sale now. This one, like I said, was about $5. Walmart, you can see them, find them sometime as low as $2, depending on when you go. Or they can go all the way up, you know, Yetis are $30. But this is a dollar store tumbler. Really cute. I give away gifts on my job to people, you know, kind of incentives. And, you know, if you're giving away 20, 30 of these, then you might not want to, you know, can't spend, you know, $5, $10, $15 on each one of those. And I thought, okay, what neat way to give away a gift that can also be personalized, and you know, you can get it, it's fairly inexpensive. Okay, so this fabric, let me see, I have one here, I'm sorry, I was trying to pick it up. This one I bought from Joann's. You see it is a fat quarter. I do have a couple of other ones. Here is this one. I'm not sure where I got this one from. I don't remember. Somebody might be able to tell from what this looks like. Here's a barcode on the back. Okay, so I just picked up a couple of these fat quarters. That's what this one was before. And I also have this one right here. So you will need fabric, and again, the fat quarter, I would get this, the big one, because you don't, depending on what size you use, you can either get the tumbler like this, and I do even have another one back there, or a dollar store. This is just a plastic tumbler, so I hope this works. You will need your Mod Podge. You will also need, this is what I use, is as the epoxy. Okay, and there's a barcode right there if you need to look that up. Okay, and of course gloves, scissors. I would some masking tape, some alcohol. But before I do anything, I always clean everything off with alcohol before I do anything. Okay, so I'm gonna clean this off, and let me show you one that I have already started. And this is gonna take several days to do this. This is not a one day project. Okay, so on the meter of, you know, 0 to 10, excuse me, I would put this at least about a 6 or a 7, because it does take quite a bit of work. Your Mod Podge has to dry, as well as that epoxy. It takes several days for each layer, at least a day, I believe, for each layer of that epoxy to really dry. Okay, so here is 1 cup that I have already put 1 coat of Mod Podge down. So this is what I'm going to show you how to do today. Okay, so you're going to take your alcohol and make sure your cup is clean. You don't want any fingerprints or anything like that that's going to cause it to your fabric to not adhere. So wipe that off. And I like to use a paper towel as opposed to cotton balls, but you can use whatever you have or whatever you like. Then decide what you're going to, which one you're going to put down. And I guess I'll go ahead and use the same one, since I have this whole thing still left over. Okay. So I still have quite a bit of this, that I may even be able to do another one. Now, I don't pre-cut mine. You can pre-cut yours if you would like to do that. I do try to snip away some of these strings on the end right here. Try to get some of those out of the way if you can. Okay. This is really cute though. I love this. I am not the originator of this, so let me just put that disclaimer out there. I've seen it online a couple of times, and I thought, oh, how neat, because I do make the little the tumblers with the monograms on there. I have given away quite a few of those, and I thought, okay, what another neat way to personalize that. All right, and I do try to use the straight edge if I can, because I am just not the best person at evening this out. Now, this one I didn't take the top, and I probably will do that before I put the epoxy on there, but I went ahead and just did it just so you could see. I would do the top of this, even though there's going to be this top on there. But because you're going to have to kind of move around that epoxy, and I'll show you my contraption in just a second that I made, but you're going to have to kind of move this around this way. You're going to have to move it up and down. I just didn't want anything going to where someone would be, you know, eating and, you know, not eating, but drinking off of this end. So that's the reason why I did that. All right. So after you have your clean tumbler, you're gonna grab your Mod Podge. Okay, grab your Mod Podge, and you're just going to cover this whole thing with Mod Podge. You probably could do it in steps. I don't. I just go ahead and layer it really good all the way around. And then if I need to add more as I'm going around, then I do that. Okay. And I kind of put mine on a little thick. I still want it to be even if possible, but I put it on a little thick. Okay. All the way around, all the way to the top, because I'm going to go all the way to the top with this. Alright, all the way down to the bottom. Make sure you get the bottom down here. Alright, and I do a coat of Mod Podge under and over, and it may not even hurt to do 2 coats over. I didn't do that with the metal one, but maybe with the plastic we might have to do that. We'll just see. And this same technique is what you would use for the metal one also. Okay, this is the same thing that I did when I did the metal one. Okay, so get your Mod Podge on there all the way around. I'm gonna kind of move this over to the side a little bit and make some room, and then make sure I have it right. Just find a starting point and line up the very top of your fabric with the top of your cup, and then bring it straight down. Okay, and that's probably, my line right here is not straight because that is, I think, the edge that I may have cut. And then all you do is you go all the way around, and as you're going around this, make sure you press and smooth, okay, and try to get it even around the whole top. Now I think one of the biggest questions that that's kind of out there for everybody, you know, anybody that wants to try this, is how do you line up your fabric, like the seam right here. And the reason why I chose this fabric the very first time to start off with, I'm going to show you. There is my seam right there. I don't know if you could see that, but I kind of chose something that I mean, you'd really have to look hard to tell if it was off or not, but I don't know. You guys, y'all kind of know, if you've been following me for a while, oops, if you've been following me for a while, then you know, I don't know, crafting is not supposed to be, I can't stress out over stuff like that. You know, this is the one I did, and you could definitely see that, but I can always fix that. I could put, you know, some vinyl down there, a cute little vinyl strip to go down here and also around the top and both, so I can always fix that. So you know, I guess if I was selling this, I would definitely be a little bit more mindful, I guess, of that, but as of right now I'm not. So alright, so then I just make sure this is completely flat, and then you can see where it ends about right here, and this is so hard for me to do on camera. If you have an X-Acto knife, you can cut it with that. I'm gonna just try it with my scissors. Okay, I don't know if I can do this because I really want you to see what I'm doing and hold this at the same time. Alright, so we are cutting all the way down, and it does overlap some, and look at that. Okay, that's the seam right there. You really can hardly tell that, and that might be something you might want to think about if you're doing this, is to try to find fabrics that the print will actually kind of you know, it'll kind of mask that a little bit. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is right here on the end, you know, I'm going to flip this up on the end, and I'm going to Mod Podge really good underneath there, all the way down that edge. Okay, fold this over. Okay, and now we are going to Mod Podge the entire cup again. Don't worry that it looks kind of, you know, white right now, kind of milky. That's okay. It will. This is the glossy. Mine is glossy, but it's clear, so you will not be able to see that. Alright, so Mod Podge this all the way down. really good. I don't want anything to come up. All the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to show you in just a minute how to cut that bottom off a little bit, and then we'll Mod Podge that some more. I'm having to dip my paintbrush all the way down because I'm actually almost out of Mod Podge. I've been using this quite a bit lately. Okay. So I'm trying to go through this with you all step by step. Oops. And again, this is the same technique that I used to do the metal cup. Exact same thing. Okay. The only difference between this and that is that this is a plastic cup or a plastic tumbler instead of metal. Okay, same technique. I have got to get some more Mod Podge. But I cannot go back to the craft store not one day this week. I think if I do that, my kids are gonna scream at me. No more, Mom, no more, no more. My kids are to the point now where they just think, Mom, there can't possibly be anything else inside Hobby Lobby, Michael's, or Joann's, or Carolina Pottery that you don't already have. Oh my goodness, I'm terrible. Okay, let me see. That kind of came up a little bit right there, but we'll fix that. Okay. So we have Mod Podge the entire thing, and now I want to go back and just kind of trim up these edges a little bit. I think what I'll probably do, so I'm not really concerned that my edges may not be all the way straight, is when I'm done, maybe get a piece of, not when I'm done, but just before I get ready to put my epoxy on there, I'm thinking I might get some glitter vinyl in this same color, this like blue color. I don't know if you saw that. This is the color of it. I think I have some glitter vinyl that I can put around the bottom of this. I don't know. I think I'm going to try to glam it up a little bit more down at the bottom. Okay. So hopefully by the time, you know, somebody gets this as a gift, you know, it's not going to look like a dollar store, you know, tumbler anymore. It's gonna, I want this to really be glammed up and look nice when I give it to somebody. Okay, so after you cut the bottom, I just make sure, I got some thick pieces of something right there. Hang on 1 second, let's get this off my brush. Okay, so I just kind of go down in between here and make sure that this is actually adhered to my tumbler. I did the exact same thing with the metal tumbler as well. Okay, so just go in here, and you know, when you're putting the Mod Podge on, it can dry fairly quickly. That's why I think some of these little parts around the side came up. And that's why I put down the coat of Mod Podge over it to make sure that it is adhering. Okay. And just around there. Alright, so just make sure this is all adhered down. Alright, and then I'm going to do the same thing up here at the top. Make sure this is all adhered up here. I don't want any of this to come out. And I would prefer that none of the epoxy will get down up underneath there. I don't want that to happen. And that right there just wasn't cut evenly, but it's okay. You already see how pretty this is going to be against the blue. It's that same color blue with some blue glitter vinyl on here, some 651. That is going to be really cute. You know what, you could even if you wanted to, maybe put some pieces some black glitter, you know, if you outlined, you know, this part right here, the cheetah spots, if you outline the black, or maybe even put like a clear glitter on here. I might try that. A clear glitter, like a nice just one little coat of clear glitter on here. That would really be cute and make it sparkle a little bit more. I have not tried the glitter ones like this yet. That's I better not try both of those at the same time. Let me just focus on one thing at a time. But here you go. All right. So now I have 2 of my containers that I have already put the fabric on, and I have already Mod Podge. So I'm gonna let these dry in the end. I'm gonna come back because I want to make sure they're really dry. I'm not gonna go ahead and put any type of epoxy on top of this yet. I want to make sure it's good and dry. This one still has a few more, I can feel a little wet spots on here. So I will come back and show you the next step. So I will see you soon. Okay everybody, I'm back with the next step. I'm getting ready to put my epoxy down on, I'm getting ready to put down my first layer of epoxy on my Dollar Tree tumbler. And I'm going to show you this. I already did one. I think I showed you this one, and which is similar to the metal one. This is the metal one that I did. This is the very first one that I did, the metal one. But I also had the green one with this pretty kind of pink and gray fabric on it. And I kind of messed up in the back, the seam. This is one of those things that you kind of have to be aware of when you're cutting. As you can see, the seam is not straight. But I was okay with that. I could deal with that, really. But what I don't like is when I started to put down the epoxy, I started to get this bleed through. Now, I don't know why that is, but I don't like it. So I don't know if I'm going to finish this or not. This is just the first coat, so once it dries, I'm going to see if maybe that green will, you know, if it'll disappear for some reason or another. I don't know, but I don't like that. So if by tomorrow, if this does not clear up all these little blotches, and I don't know, it could be decorative if you like that, but I don't like that. So I'm gonna let it sit and see how it does overnight, and if it doesn't come out right, it's no biggie. Like I say, it's about $1, so I'm okay with that. This is my little contraption that I made. It's actually like a candlestick holder kind of thing, and I have my paint roller here with some interface that I taped on here with masking tape, and then I just put that on there. It's easy for me to turn it, you know, for the next couple of hours, so rather than trying to hold it and all that kind of stuff. So I have already made just one thing of epoxy, and it's got no air bubbles in it right now. I usually let it sit for a couple of minutes. And once I mix it, I will use my little, I have like a little heat gun or whatever, almost like a blow dryer, and I'll blow it in there, and the heat will actually make those, it'll pop the air bubbles. So after I do that, then I just let it sit for a while, and this is kind of what it turns out. This should be enough. This is about 10, I believe, mLs once you mix it together. This should be enough to do one full coat around this entire tumbler. Now you can use a little wooden stick to put it on and then, you know, smear it. I just use my fingers. I use gloves with epoxy. Some people do not. It's just a personal preference. But I'm going to see if this one is going to do what the other tumbler did. And remember, these are just dollar tumblers. If you use one of the metal ones that, you know, are a little bit more expensive, and some of them aren't. You can find them in Walmart for, you know, like $2. So, you know, if you're lucky, if you get to Walmart on a good day, when they're having some kind of sale or whatever on these, I've seen people on Facebook and everything, they've purchased those metal tumblers for about, you know, $1 or $2. So you get the kind of general concept with this. Okay, I like to smear it on with my hands just because I like to feel. I can tell the fabric from the actual epoxy, and I can make sure that it's going on even. It's easier for you to see it on camera because I can actually see that glare when I look on my camera, but in person that glare is a little bit harder, that gloss is a little bit harder to see. It is actually soaking into the fabric, okay? And I can kind of see some spots where it probably would do what the other one did as far as those blotches, but maybe because this fabric is, you know, a darker color, then that's why I'm not seeing the color of the tumbler through there. So I don't know. I'm not going to stress over it too much. It's not a lot of money. I think probably the most expensive thing that I purchased in this little experiment would be the epoxy, but you get plenty of epoxy in there, so I don't think it's that big of a loss. And you know, when you're trying something new for the first time, sometimes the first, second, maybe even third time doesn't go quite according to plan, and you just, you know, whatever mistakes you made, you learn from those and you just keep going. You know, no biggie. Not for me. Remember my motto: crafting is stress relief, not stressful. Okay, this is where we come to unwind and to be creative, let our creative juices kind of flow. Alright, so that should be enough. I'm almost at the very end, and it will take exactly the whole thing, but if you make the right dose, the right amount, you should have enough to do the entire tumbler. And you know, if you make if you have a larger tumbler, then you will probably need to double your recipe for your epoxy. Okay. I like to use my hand instead of one of those little metal things. I gotta keep this up straight. It won't sit straight, unfortunately. Okay, so I have put epoxy all the way around this, and there's a little bit of bleed through of the actual tumbler there. There's some down on the bottom right here, maybe a little bit harder for you to see on camera. There's a little bit, but I think because of the fabric being darker, it's just harder to see it like this right here. I mean, I can see the green coming through that, but you can't see the blue. You just see it's got some dark spots on there. So I think that's okay. That's doable. Okay, so now what I do, while you're turning this, I use this little knob, you know, the end part of this to turn it. About every 30 minutes or so, I come in and I make sure I turn it, and maybe about 45 minutes. If I start noticing a little air bubbles, then I take my my heat gun and then I just turn it, and I kind of heat to get some of the air bubbles out. No matter what you do, you will have air bubbles in there. I have them on this one right here, even though it may be very hard for you to see it. I'll turn it to the side, but there are tiny little air bubbles in there. I do have this monogram, which I'm not going to put on there because I don't, it doesn't really match, and I don't know if it matters, but once I put down one coat of epoxy, I put my monogram down, and then I epoxy either 1 to 2 coats, probably more than likely 2 coats. I think I did 2, I can't remember, on this right here. But this will take 24 hours to cure. And you just have to make sure that you have to keep an eye on this, unless you're fortunate enough to have one of those rotisseries where it will turn on its own. You can program it or something like that. If you got some kids and a timer, maybe you can just tell them, all right, the timer goes off. Somebody go around there and turn it. And then there's not very much on this. Sometimes when I take them off and I set them up this way, once I set them up this way, I will also turn it like this so that the epoxy is also moving up and down this way and not just across. But I guess if you're turning it every so often like you're supposed to this way, then you won't get that. Sometimes I notice like a little pool of epoxy on the ends down here, and maybe you could just smear it out so it's not doing that. But after a while you'll start to see this epoxy, it's going to move down a little bit. So you have to make sure you are turning this every so often. You cannot do this and just leave it, or you will have a big lump of epoxy at the very bottom of this. So oops, I grabbed that. I grabbed that cut with my hand. I got epoxy all over it. That's why I use this. So I'm going to let this cure for about 24 hours. I may or may not, just to show you all, I may go ahead and put a monogram on there and then let you see me epoxy it one more time. Okay, I'm back, everybody, and I am almost done. My desk is so sticky now. I am just about done with this. I'm going to pull this off of here so that you can see pretty much the finished result. This thing is it's sticking to my, I have it sitting on a paper plate and it's sticking to that. Okay, so it's not quite cured yet, but this morning I went ahead and I put another coat of epoxy on here. So it now has 2 coats of epoxy. I'm going to attempt to take this off. Let's see if I can get this off. And put the top back on it. It's kind of hard to do this part because I made sure it's actually got several layers of tape on here because I wanted to make sure that the top of this, where people are going to be drinking and everything, would not get messed up with the epoxy. Let me turn my camera a little bit so maybe I can get some of this off. Alright, so there we go. So now I finally got a hold to that. Get that off of there. And I'm really pleased with the cup. I went to church. Today is Sunday. I went to church and like I told you, I put another thing of epoxy on here this morning before I went to church, and I turned it a few times before I left. And then when I came back home, it was actually pooling down at the bottom. But what I was able to do is I got my heat gun and I kind of warmed that area up a little bit. And I was able to kind of soften it because, you know, it has not completely cured yet. And then I kind of smoothed it out. There's some right there, but what I'll do is I'll get my X-Acto knife to kind of get that one little piece off. Okay, so here it is. Remember, this was the Dollar Tree just plastic tumbler. And it turned out really nice. I like this. It's an inexpensive way to give somebody a gift. And you know what I thought about after I did this is maybe putting like some, putting a little bit of glitter. Once you put your fabric on, maybe putting a little bit of glitter on there to give it just a little bit of extra glam to it, especially since I put that blue sparkle Oracle 651 on there. And you can kind of still see my mistake, but again, this isn't for anybody. This was me just for trial and error purposes. And here is the top. It's still kind of wet, so that's why it's still tacky. So this would be the top. And you know what? Maybe I might put a little bit of something on the top to kind of glam that up. I don't know. But there it is for right now. Super cute. I like the way it turned out. Definitely some do's and don'ts would be to make sure you get a fabric that is pretty thick or dark colored, so you don't have this result, you know, right here from the one that I did the other day. So there it is. I'll kind of snap a picture of it so you can see it. But I really like it. Turned out really cute. A few flaws here and there. But of course, with anything else, excuse me, the more you practice, the better. And I can see a few, looks like a few lumps in there, but I'm not going to touch it because, again, it's still tacky right now. By tomorrow, excuse me, by tomorrow I would be able to use it. But really cute. I like it. And it's doable. It's plastic. Probably can't put anything hot in here, and I definitely don't know if I'd stick it in the microwave or anything like that. But, you know, water, headed to the gym, this, that, and the other, I think would be doable. So, thank you for watching my video. Please leave some comments down below, and do remember that this is kind of a trial and error. I am not the originator, and I'm definitely not an expert at this, okay, guys? So, please make sure you can like it, you can share it to whatever you're watching on social media. Any questions or concerns, I'll try to give some more explanation to anybody that has any questions or anything, because I'm here to help any way that I can. You know, it's a learning process and a journey for all of us. So as always, be blessed.